What's going on?
Hey, what's up, Schalyece? Sound like you having a good day today.
it's going.
Well, I am not gonna keep you all day. Um, Thank you for accepting my invite to this virtual meeting. This is the first for me. Can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Yeah, I'm one of those in-person people. So, uh,
Right. Me too.
yeah, but
You have to get used to this way
uh,
of
for a little.
socializing.
Right. For a little bit, I'll get into it. So I'm gonna utilize this session of us speaking um, probably later on, and we probably do another one-on-one in person on Tuesday if you don't mind. Um, but what I wanted to go over quite briefly is just one of the reasons I elected to reach out to you is because I know you've been an attorney in a number of different fields in private practice and what you are now, from working with the government to there was the private firm that you worked with as well. As far as your career as an attorney has a broad band. So in regards to systemic racism, I'm quite sure there are some examples that you can lend, not only from a professional but personal experience dealing with the law, and just wanted you to kind of elaborate that and just have a casual conversation with you.
Okay. Um, as it relates to our issues with wills in us, a lot of times in our community, we don't draft wills and leave them for our family. So it leaves the family in a bad predicament sometimes, especially when there's a lot of property and when there's several marriages where one person is married and they have kids and the other person has kids. It's their second marriage. Um, and so there tends to be issues as it relates to that because you have where those people will buy community property. And if you don't leave a will, you will have where the one spouse will have children on one side that inherit their 50%, and one spouse on the other child on the other side will have their children uh, inherit the other 50%. So it can be a real issue with that. And another thing about wills is people sometimes think they only have to do a will if they own property. But a will is your last time you get to speak to your family.
Mm.
So it's a time where you can say what I want to wear. This is what I want to wear in my casket, my last outfit, per se. Um, and it doesn't necessarily have to be giving away anything. It could just be what you want as it relates to your funeral.
Oh,
Um,
no,
so
I didn't mean to interrupt. I said okay because
Yeah, because those are some of the things that we deal with. Another thing that people tend to forget when they divorce, when it relates to their insurance policies, they will forget to take off their ex-spouse, which can then affect who gets the insurance money. I have a prime example where I had a close friend of mine. He had divorced his wife maybe probably 7, 8 years. He unfortunately he dropped dead, and he had 4 children. But when the children contacted his employer, they found out that they were not the beneficiary of his policy, that they had to actually contact his ex-wife, which was not their mother, in order to bury him.
wow, it's kind of, I have examples of that personally that I've went through, family wise, where a person close to me, husband died unexpectedly, and they
Mhm.
had been married close to 9, maybe 10 years. And it was something about the state of Louisiana in regards to his retirement and Social Security. If the new wife, who is married to him, wasn't actually married to him for that that long of a period, as long as the first wife was, she was entitled to half
Well,
of,
it's 10 years.
yeah, it's 10 years. She was entitled to just as much money as the first wife that the state had to pay out. But I was surprised at these things. And luckily, he did have the living will and changed all those documents that he did, where his
Right.
current wife was able to actually get the money that she needed to sustain her life. So I do agree, living
Great.
wills, property or not, we all need one.
We need one. Um, and then when it relates to trust come in because in the situation, the scenario I gave before, where then the property would be in trust and it would pass down generation to generation to generation. Unlike a will you have to probate in court, whereas a trust it basically transfers the property outside of the court. So you would just basically, the trust goes into effect upon your death. It becomes irrevocable. And then the trustee is to, do whatever it is that you had, you wanted as it relates to your trust. So trust can be very good because you don't have to, your family don't have to worry about going to court. It can, so it's less expensive because like I said, the trust is recorded and then, any property that's a part of the trust is recorded and it just passes on generation to generation.
Let me ask you this question here, because as I'm listening to you speak on the wills and trusts, and I know my grandmother had property, I have family members who have lost their parents who had property, and some can be in our community. One of the reasons I wanted to have this type of vocal engagement is to nullify that ideology that what happens in this house stays in this house and we don't need anybody in our business. Because
Mhm.
one of the things that dawned upon me just now when you said will and trust and you spoke on property, and I know I'm getting off subject here, but in regards to gentrification, I grew up uptown off of Louisiana between Napoleon, and I know a lot of folks that had a lot of property there. And of course, they have passed on since then. And those families have lost those houses due to, in part, there was never that level of communication from that property owner, whether that was a grandparent or a parent that said, this house is left to you all. You find that happening more in that realm. And the reason I pivoted a little bit when I thought about gentrification on how folks are just selling these houses off or losing these houses that should have been passed on from generation to generation in our community.
Well, one of the ways that people are losing their property, unfortunately, is due to tax sales, where a person is, where the city will put your property up for auction, and anyone who can purchase the taxes. Now, if the family who owns the property does not come with it back in 3 years and redeem the property from the city, then the person who has purchased the taxes can then go into court and file what we call a quiet title.
Oh,
And those quiet titles are done through the court system. You have to, the only way they can get the property is by filing that quiet title. Then if they are unable to locate the family members, basically the court will issue appoint a curator to represent those property owners. The curator will then research and try to find the family members
okay.
in
And I,
order for them to redeem the property from the purchase.
and I guess that's why I live in will and trust, because let's say a property owner has a mortgage on a home and they're having that home exempt tax on the house. And then unfortunately they pass away and everyone else that's living in the house, whether that's the children or another spouse or family member, does that tie into if the city or the state comes back and said, hey, we realize that this person has been deceased for X amount of years, can someone basically take that property with the tax sale of that because of the home
Mm.
exemption? Is that part of that?
No.
Okay,
The
that's
home exemption, yeah, that's something totally different. Home
okay.
exemption basically deals with where if you live in the house, you
Mhm.
have a right to homestead exemptions. Like you and your wife, each one of y'all are entitled to 50% of the homestead exemption. So if you're just single, it's, the homestead exemption is 100%.
Okay, but definitely having that will and trust would say, hey, I got insurance. This insurance money is used to pay off the mortgage so y'all can be debt free.
Well, let's be careful with that. Once a person gets insurance, say
Hmm.
for instance, and I have another example of this, where uh, a sibling had promised to uh, divide the insurance because the sister was dying and she didn't have a chance to change the beneficiary.
Hmm.
But she promised her sister that she would divide the insurance money among all the siblings. However, when you are the beneficiary of the insurance money, it's your money. There's
Mm,
nothing in the law that can make you give that money to that person
okay.
because the insurance money falls outside of the estate.
Uh,
And so because of that, she kept the money. She kept all of the money
no
and
matter
did not
what
give.
no matter what that will and trust actually said.
Whatever you promise,
Hmm.
um, the beneficiary is the one who gets the money. So had she had the beneficiary as the state,
Yes.
as the state as her beneficiary, then it would have worked out. But because she named one of her siblings as
Mm,
the beneficiary, she had the right to do whatever she want with the money, and her siblings had no recourse.
and I think that's where a lot of families, personally, I know that's where a lot of families have divided because of the fact that the word estate hadn't been used and it was individualized.
Exactly.
And for us that don't know the jargon or the legal
Mm-hmm.
terminology, it can become, oh, well, Big Mama said we all get the money. Well, at
Right.
the end of the day, legally, technically, that
No.
person don't have to do it because,
Right.
and I understand that now. And I think this is some of these conversations that a lot of us really are unfamiliar with. And unfortunately, when it comes down to living wills and trusts and things of this nature, especially when it comes down to money. Money tear a lot of families up, and it's important to
Yes.
have that person should be able to dictate their wishes. Like you said, I want to be buried like this. I want to wear that, and I want this to be this. So everyone knows what their wishes are. And I'm gonna just speak briefly on that. Years ago, my grandmother, who I was a caretaker of, um, I had that difficult conversation with her after visiting one of my clients that owns a funeral home and a mortuary, and we was
Okay.
talking about life insurance and things of this nature and burial insurance. Long story short, she had liver cancer that came back. She was 81 years old, and I just flat out asked her. I said, "What are your wishes?" And at the time when she started to speak, I told her, "Hold on a second." I called her children, and I said, "I need y'all to come over here right now. She wants to talk about what her wishes." They thought she was dying, so it was a whole lot of hooping and hollering. Um, but I also
Of
recorded
course.
the conversation. And
Yes.
I wanted to record it because she was in sound mind and body. And at the end of the day, it was never going to be, because all I was a grandchild. And she had living kids that were older than me because of the state. And I felt it important enough to be able to articulate visually for those who got bad understanding that no, this is what she wanted on this date. She said she wanted this, that, and the other. And it really, I noticed at that point it caused the rift only because we can't accept death when we got a guilty conscience. That's a whole nother conversation, but I noticed the family members that were choosing not to be involved in those difficult conversations of learning what her will is, what her wish is, what
Sure.
kind of
Mhm.
property she had, to learn these things. They were more in their feelings, and I wasn't trying to have that. I wanted y'all to be a part of this so we all can be on the same page.
That was it was a great idea though. It really was.
So I definitely appreciate this information because I think a lot more people, and this kind of ties into what estate planning as well. when you said the word, well, the difference between a beneficiary being a singularity person or it being with the estate. What's the difference? What is an estate?
The estate is basically what you have at the moment you die. So it can be consist of money, property, anything that you own, your car, boat, your assets. That's basically your estate.
Now, in the realm of just systemically, I know it's not a lot of things that probably, but on the law side of it, but there are probably some things that have hindered our community more than others. Is that lack of conversations like this throughout our community, where the ones who know and the ones who don't? That's why we probably never have the businesses being carried out the way they need to be. Everybody, you tell me a little bit more. You probably
Yeah,
have.
that's basically what's happening. The prime example, what you said about the properties, because people lived in the property and it just went down generation, and no one ever actually did a succession for the property. You find where property is still in somebody's name who's been dead for over 30 years.
Wow.
And by this time, you've had multiple children. So you got the great grandchildren on now on the because because each time someone dies, and if they have any offspring, so if someone say great grandmother had 10 kids, and which I actually am dealing with now in the situation where they had 10 kids, but then in turn, one of the children actually had almost 20.
Wow. And
Yes.
they all get a
And each
piece.
of their of 1/10,
Mhm.
and then the numbers just it can get out of hand because you have all these people that are now on the basically the deed. They all have an interest in this property.
But
So it can be very hard to get rid of property when you have multiple owners and they're everywhere.
right. But that's also, it does two things. It allows that property to stay in that family's lineage. And two, the family itself should now have the ability to talk to whoever the what is it, the person that's head of the estate. What is that
The
terminology?
executor or
The
the
executor.
administrator, depending on if you have a will, you have an executor. If you die without a will, you have an administrator.
Okay, so so let's say for instance a person passes away that owns the family home, great grandmother, and the executor was a grandchild, or aunt, or uncle.
Mm-hmm.
By them being the executor in their will and trust or in their estate, it should also have them succeeding that responsibility to someone else.
No, they can't succeed the
Okay.
executorship unless they're removed. I mean, for
Okay.
some
Okay.
reason. They need to basically, once all the property is divided or all the legatees have received their interest of part of the will, the estate is then closed out.
Yes. Okay.
The estate shouldn't last forever, but
Oh.
sometimes it does because if you don't file that final accounting and get the judgment of possession,
Mm.
uh, it can stay open until that's done.
Okay. Okay. So at some point the estate does close out and it becomes the property of someone.
Yes.
Oh, okay. And this is why people need to talk to professionals like yourself in order to make sure that they have the proper information. Like I say, Schalyece has 20, what is it, 20 years or over 20 years
Over
experience?
20 years
Over
of
20 years
legal
experience.
experience.
So
Yes.
you all listening, that's Schalyece Harrison, that's harrisonlaw.co. She will be speaking on this Tuesday live on Facebook and in Instagram. So want y'all to chime in, but let's pivot away from that little brief commercial. Family law. Um, and the reason I chose these topics was, and you can speak on anything that you feel as though is detrimental systemically to us. The reason I chose these topics is during my quarantine over the last couple of months, I listened to a number of different people talking about the things that affect our community the most. And these were some of the topics that really affected our community in regards to the opportunity to pass on property because of what redlining was for so many years. And that's why I guess I asked the question on gentrification, because it kind of seems like what was once redlined and ousted by the banks as far as predatory lending practices and whatnot, people are now finding themselves coming back and investing in that. And they're, like you said, they're buying the property at pennies on a dime because they're just paying the taxes on it.
Correct. But, you know, again, they still have to jump through some hoops before that's done. Just because you buy a tax sale property, that don't mean you can just go there and just say, oh, I own it after 3 years.
Right.
You do have to, you know, jump through some hoops and get a judgment, you know, from the court saying that you are the new owner.
Okay. So out of family law and DBEs, which one you feel is a more important topic right now?
Right now, what you're saying, really estate, not family law, but estate planning and wills and trusts is a hot topic right now.
Okay.
As it relates to DBEs,
Mm-hmm.
do you want me to just discuss give brief information on DBEs and what's going on with that?
Yeah.
How to get in? Okay. So basically, you know, it's a disadvantaged business, and you can get it through the certification through the City of New Orleans, where you can go on you can go online and do the application. Application is probably going to take you a couple of hours, and the reason why I'm saying that is because there are a number of documents that you need to gather and upload to the system in order for your application to be complete. One of the things that I find, I actually gave a seminar on, I went through the entire application from beginning to end. So I did that I think it was last April at the main library through my organization that I work with called SCORE. SCORE is the arm of the SBA, and it's a volunteer mentoring business program. And so I did a seminar where I went through every aspect of the application. I also provided the attendees with examples of the documents that they need, because some people don't know what certain documents are. So I provided that example for them. So then when they were able to get them, they would just have to upload those documents to the system. So once you complete the process of the application, your application will be reviewed, and then you're going to actually have to have an interview with one of the people from the department that reviews the DBE applications. They're going to come to your office, or if you have a home office, it'll be to your home, because one of the things they want to make sure that you have is a computer, a file cabinet, you know, office, a business, a home office, or a real physical location where you're keeping your documents. I think it was right after Katrina, they had problems with people just doing these applications, and then they found out there was these people, no one was keeping records.
Oh.
So then they started the process of making sure that people had these actual file cabinet, a computer, you know, where they can keep their records. The whole process, I would say, takes about, depending on how long it takes you to get your application in, I would say 3 months maybe at the most, because it depends on, once they review your application, then they set up the inspection, home office inspection or interview, whatever you want to call it.
And I am one of those that are extremely guilty of not completing and following up the process of the DBEs. And I'm gonna ask the question, and then I'll tell you I know why I'm guilty. Tell us why this is an advantage to have a DBE certification. What is
well, because one of the advantages is because most of the contracts in the city of New Orleans, you have to have 35% DBE participation. So
That money
if
is
you're a
already
DBE,
allocated towards small companies that are certified.
as far as I know, yes, it's 35% participation. So if you are bidding on a contract, you have to show that you have reached out to some DBEs to participate on that contract.
And the
So
reason,
it's very, I think it's great. It's easy to do, especially I tell people, when you want to do your certification, especially if you're a new business, you know why? Your documents are easy. You, you don't, your tax returns is going to be just your personal tax returns because you just opened your business.
yeah.
And certain things you won't have because you just opened. So if the process of getting the documents are easy because some of them are limited because you just open. So it's one of the things I think that's what I did before. When I first opened my firm, the first thing I did was get DBE certified. I'm on the local level as well as the state level. I'm certified through the Department of Transportation, DOTD. So I also have minority certification through them. So,
And especially as a minority and a female minority, you have a double advantage of the probability of getting those bids allocated to you, because the most certifications you get where they have to award DBE status money, you're not a guarantee. But if it's you and two other companies, you got a 50% chance out of that 35% chance of working on that bid in whatever the city is.
correct.
So, and I know I'm guilty of it because I've attended these meetings and me and you've had these conversations, and I have yet to push my wife's business. The majority of all of our businesses, ironically enough, have her as the majority owner in the company. So I can get those double things. And that's something that we'll talk about off cue to get my life together on that end. But what I've also seen is DBEs aren't just like a minority or a small business. You can be Caucasian and Asian or Mexican. It's just not necessarily African American, correct?
No, correct. As long as
So,
you're a minority.
and I think this is why this one is important more than anything, because there are a number of people that always wonder why certain companies always get contracts through the city. And I will give Mayor Cantrell this. She redid the website, and it is so easy and so transparent on all this information that good old boy system is gone. That you
Okay.
can, if you can go to the city of New Orleans and look and just see where they're asking for bids on projects versus what they used to do, especially with the building of the airport and administration's past, now is extremely transparent for someone to say, hey, I want to sign up and find out what this product is or project is, and be able to put that application in, especially as a DBE. It's not hidden like it used to be, where you had to know somebody that knew somebody that when they were asking for those things.
The bids, yeah, and you just have to do your RFP, get it in to them, your response to the RFP, get it in and just see if you make the cut,
Now you're speaking in terms that most people don't know. Let them know what a RFP is.
Request for proposal. And you're right.
You know, at the end of the
That is what, they do businesses do requests for proposals, local and state governments. That's how they get people to bid on various projects that they have, they need services as well as, it can be construction, it can be services, it can be products,
right. It's a whole
just like
plethora.
somebody, right? Yeah, somebody can they can do one of the biggest contracts somebody would ever want is to get the request for proposal for the airport, where you would be supplying all the supplies. That would be an ultimate, just a great contract to have.
Right.
Because the paper supplies, cleaning supplies, there's various RFPs that go out.
Lawn care service when the parks and parkways can't do everything.
Exactly.
For those guys that want to be landscapers or are landscapers and just trying to up their game and get the bigger contracts. There's so many opportunities. And I say that because, as far as systemically, when it was the good old boy system, and it ain't what you know, it's who you know. These type of conversations just pull back that curtain on the opportunities are there for us. We just have to be structured in business. Well, I'm gonna say this: just because you're in business don't mean you're about business, and you have to be both. So if you're in business and about business, you can get these opportunities and speak with. I'm gonna call this. I'm gonna say this for Judge Harrison, because you are running on November 3rd for another for a judgeship. You want to tell the people where that's at and how you plan on changing the courts there?
Okay, well, I'm currently running for Civil District Court Division G. I want to bring technology into the courtroom and make it. Person that's sitting in the seat right now has been in the seat for almost 40 years.
Wow.
And so I think there's a time for a change. And I think I can be that person to make that change. I believe I am that person to make that change. So again, the election is November 3rd, like you said. And if you want to know more about it, you can go to my website at SchalyeceForJudge.com.
Now you said that person. Oh, go ahead. Yeah,
you can visit my Facebook page at Schalyece for Judge.
Now, when you say that person has been in there almost 4 decades, you definitely gonna come in with a fresh ideology, because heck, they've been in law as long as I've been alive. That's since 1979. So they definitely are out of touch with what today's world looks like versus when they first off got out of law school, more than likely, and when they started their judgeship. So what she said, you all can find more information at SchalyeceForJudge.com or visit her Facebook page at Schalyece for Judge to find out more info. And in regards to these questions and answers, you do have another website, which is harrisonlaw.co, as a practicing attorney with all these issues that we're covering today that they can still visit. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. I mean, quite honestly, this kind of I wrote down some stuff for myself to get my life together, especially on the DBE side of it. What other practices of law that you do that you see a big disconnect that hinders us from moving forward more than others?
Well, I'm a tax attorney.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna say a lot of us get in trouble with taxes and bad taxes and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that we don't understand is that there's also a lot of people think they have to actually pay to get their taxes done. There are tons of free programs out there where they will do your taxes and file them for you. It's called the VITA program, and it's set up. And I think they start right after they start accepting filing returns. The IRS start accepting returns. So you say by February 1, the VITA program should be up and running. And you can go to various locations. Some of the locations is Delgado. There is also the United Way here on Canal Street. They have a VITA program where they actually do people taxes for them.
Okay.
So even if your taxes are, people say, oh, I haven't filed taxes in forever. That never goes away.
Okay.
You have to make sure that you file your taxes because if you don't, the IRS is coming for you.
Yeah.
And then most times when I get the call is after the IRS has actually hit their bank account. So they will put a lien on their bank account, and they know that will get their attention. And then they're calling like, how can I get my money? How can I get my money? Be honest, it's very hard because at that point they're done because you've been ignoring them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
So all you can do basically is get get together, find out what years that you haven't filed, and file
yep.
because it doesn't go away, and it just hinders you. It really does. It hinders you
From moving forward.
from moving forward when it comes to certain things.
Well, this is a conversation. It looks like I got probably about 4 minutes left of the 40-minute recorded session. Um, One thing I will say, we're gonna have to schedule another. I'm gonna have to schedule another call with you on a little bit more in-depthness on a lot of these subject matters. I'm excited about it because although it's just you and I talking, I think this conversation is extremely productive in a sense of if people listen to this, they should do like I've done, and that's have pen and paper and wrote down questions and answers that affect their life. Because whether you work for somebody or thinking about opening a business, we've covered those things. Heck, taxes, whether you own your own business or pay personal income tax or whatever the case may be, we covered all that. But more importantly, for those who will and trust in estate planning, these are the things that all of us actually need. And we need a resource and a person like yourself to be able to file it, document it, have it notarized on this is our wishes, because today ain't promised, tomorrow ain't promised to none of us.
Yes, that is so true. That is so true.
So
One good thing just before we go is we have a will specific to Louisiana where you actually can just, if it's in your own handwriting, it's called an holographic will. You can actually just write out your will, as long as you sign and date it, and it's in your handwriting. That can be your last will. It does not actually have to be notarized if it's in your own handwriting. And it has to be signed and dated for it to be to pass as an holographic will. So that's one of the things that we have that is different from other states, is that you actually can write out a handwritten will. Doesn't have to be before a notary.
So I know you want to do a presentation on Tuesday. Want to tell us real briefly? We got like 2 minutes on what that's going to be.
So basically, I'm talking about wills and trusts, like we just said today, and talking about DB certification and how to get that done and why you should get it done.
Oh, awesome, awesome. I'm going to get on your calendar again because one of the things I want to get together, especially as we're gaining momentum and probably before or after you win your judgeship, is the DBEs and you going through a presentation of scores. I think it's a lot of people that I can reach out to that have a business that need that information. So you and I figure that out on another day. But I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Remember, on August the 11th, we'll have a forum live on Facebook and Instagram. You can find Attorney Schalyece Harrison's information for SchalyceForJudge.com along with HarrisonLaw.co. I am Michael Lewis. I appreciate y'all listening. For any questions, visit us at the Algiers Auditorium community page to send in questions that you may have. But also, if you need attorney, what everything she does. She's an attorney over 20 years and do a little bit of everything. Will and trust, construction law, business law, probate and successions, certified in DBE. You've heard it from her. So, reach out to her. Thank y'all again. God bless.